Welcome to the Talk of Champions. It's Tony Tsoukalas. My name is Kyle Henderson. Thanks for joining us tonight. We wanted to get a live show going.
Definitely.
Bring you some Talk of Champions from guys who are in Tuscaloosa at every single practice.
More than halfway into spring camp. Can you believe it?
Yeah, A-Day is just around the corner again. And, I wanted to start out with the new coaching salaries. I think that came up earlier today. And what stood out to you? I have it here on BamaInsider.com. Pete Golding making $650 as an inside linebackers coach. Are you surprised by that?
That's a pretty good salary, especially when you consider, I think a lot of people are pointing to that Tosh Lapoy made more than that last year. But, Tosh Lapoy was also in the process of becoming the next defensive coordinator. He was getting those big pay bumps. I think last year's salary of Tosh Lapoy making $950,000 was more of a just how much he was getting paid. So $650,000 for Pete Golding, who will be coaching the inside linebacker. That's a hefty fee, especially coming from a place like University of Texas San Antonio. So
and from what we've heard, Pete Golding is really doing wonders with his group. These younger coaches are really inspiring to these younger guys, really connecting well, bringing some new life on social media. And I think that these inside linebackers are really going to vibe well. We see these guys every single day, and I think Pete Golding is going to be something special. Josh Gaddis, wide receivers coach, $525 coming in from Penn State.
Yeah, another great salary as well. You're talking.
These
about
are all great salaries, right?
Yeah,
which one wouldn't you take?
But no, you talk about high energy guys.
Yeah.
Josh Gaddis is a really high energy guy. He seems a little bit more handsy, more hands on with the wide receivers. I've seen him go into bump and run coverage and kind of like jostle him a bit.
He really has some great footwork. He's out there displaying his skills, really bringing what he knows to the game. And I like the fact what he's doing on social media.
He has those weekly tips, or I don't know if they're weekly tips, but he has tips to the future recruits and just how to keep your mind right, or just how to get on the right track for success.
He's a positive guy, and look at the guys that he's a younger guy, can't be more than 35 years old, working with younger guys like Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Terrell Shavers. Guys who are young, but obviously very experienced with what they did last year. But it's a good mix, I feel.
Yeah.
Who else we got here? We got Carl Scott, who came in as a new defensive backs coach, replacing Derek Ansley. $350,000. And in my opinion, I think he's one coach who has a lot of pressure on him. Just because Derek Ansley, in my opinion, did a great job here at Alabama. He's also got Nick Saban right over him.
He's also coming in with a very inexperienced unit.
That's another factor.
All you have is Deontay Thompson. You've seen how thin they are this spring. They've had to have Devontae Smith switch over to cornerback at times. That's a position group that Alabama is admittedly thin at. It's something that Nick Saban's talked about during the spring. Ideally you wouldn't have to have a guy like Devontae Smith play double duty, but he's going to have to go do both like that. So.
Thanks for joining us on the Talk of Champions. My name is Kyle Henderson, along with Tony Tsoukalas. We're breaking down the coaching salaries that just got released today by the Tuscaloosa News. They were first to break the story. Jeff Banks. He's another younger guy. There's so many new coaches coming into Alabama. He's one guy who'll be working with the tight ends and the special teams. Another guy with some good energy, $270,000. And then the quarterback coach, Dan Enos, making $200,000. Now, he was at Arkansas and then was expected to go to Michigan, and now he's at Alabama.
Exactly, yeah.
Good fit for him. I think definitely. A lot of people are really excited about what he's going to do working with these talented quarterbacks, and we'll talk a little bit about the quarterbacks here in a second.
Before we get to Enos, though, Banks, a former college punter, how much do you think that's going to help a guy like Skylar DeLong, a freshman punter, come in? Now he's got someone that's played the position, that knows, exactly what to do. Alabama's had its ups and downs in special teams. I think Jeff Banks is going to be a really good influence on that group, not only on the punting but also on the kicking side.
Yeah, and I think that's one area. everybody looks at Alabama and they're A+ in every single category. But besides the punting game last year, I think their special teams game was their weak point.
It definitely had its holes. And if you look at a team like Texas A&M, they always seem to have a strong special teams group, and that's where Jeff Banks is coming from. So that's encouraging for Alabama to have a guy like that come in. And
Skylar DeLong is another guy who we're really going to watch, because taking over for J.K. Scott,
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
those are, you can't fill those shoes right away. So I think, like you said, Jeff Banks coming in, working with these younger guys, having the experience is going to be great for Alabama. Skylar DeLong, though, has a lot to prove, just like the kicking game does for Alabama. Like Joseph Bullivus,
Yeah, Joseph
right?
Bullivus, and I think Nick Saban said he went 4 for 5. And none of the kicks were chip shots, or not many of them were chip shots. So we're talking about 35 and plus, and that's really encouraging for someone like Bullivus, who was so inconsistent last spring. He lost the job to Andy Papanastos, and he looks like he's, at least in this first scrimmage, and that was working in cold, windy conditions. He still looked like, from what we heard, like he had a good game. So that's really encouraging. If you can kick in those kind of conditions, under that kind of pressure that he's under right now, it looks promising for the season.
Other salaries that are current, and they could be bumped up later on. Tosh Lapoy, defensive coordinator, making $950, and I think rightfully so. I mean, he's one guy, high energy guy, a lot of experience, and I think him making that much and probably going to get bumped to over $1 million here pretty soon just speaks volume about how much faith they have in his abilities. He's a younger guy too.
Right.
He's like 36 years old, I think, something like that.
I forget
37.
actually, yeah, but
something he's young.
He's not old,
and he's got a lot of responsibility. He's we talked to him for the Sugar Bowl, calm, collected when we were talking to him, but out on the field, a lot of intensity, high energy guy.
Right. Definitely somebody you want to play for. Always fun to listen to too.
Oh yeah, right.
As today he was talking about being like a jet taking off of an Air Force carrier. Yeah,
and he has some expletives that he's always dropping.
Oh,
you
yeah,
can catch those in the background. I mean, he's on his guys, and he has a great outside linebacking corps coming back. I mean, those guys are stacked all the way through. Mike Loxley, who was a offensive analyst and then the wide receivers coach, and then offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Making $600 right now, probably going to get bumped as well.
Yeah, definitely will get bumped. I mean, all the current coaches will get bumped.
Yeah, so these bumps will come eventually, but that's kind of where they currently sit. Brent Key, another guy who does a fantastic job
with the offensive line.
Yeah, oh yeah. And he's another younger guy too. So when you look at this new staff, a lot of these guys are youth, right? I mean, there's a lot of youthful guys on staff. Joe Panunzio, who's been there for a long time, one of the older coaches, making a cool 375 working with the running backs.
Right, yeah. And he's replacing Burton Burns, who was since Saban took over here at Alabama, who's been the coach. So yeah, there's a good mix of, well, there's a lot of inexperience, but there's also some experience, like guys like Panunzio and some people that have done it before, and I think that mix is going to be good. But I ultimately think what we've been talking about before, the new energy and enthusiasm from the new coaches is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's electric. I mean, we're out at practice all the time, and the energy is just electric. Moving on to our next topic, Alabama will make a trip to the White House tomorrow. That'll be April 10th. Alabama will be in Washington, D.C. to meet with President Donald Trump. Tony was at campus today, talked to Damian Harris, the Alabama's running back. What was the takeaway? There was other guys who were available for media today, but what was the general feel about going to the White House from these guys?
Alabama seems all for it. I don't know if all the players agree with the presidency or what their political views are, but they're kind of putting that to the side and they're focusing on just the achievement of winning a national championship and going to the White House. It's a special place. Mm-hmm. No matter what you think, it's a special place, and it's a place that should be celebrated when you get a chance to visit. And I think that's the way the players are looking at it. They're putting the political stuff aside. Damian Harris is a player that is in the past has criticized President Trump, but he's not looking at it as he's taking that part of it out of the equation and just celebrating last year's team and what they've achieved.
And I think that's what Saban told. Well, Ross Piersbacher said.
Yeah,
right?
So,
he said,
go
ahead and tell him.
Yeah, Nick Saban sat down with the team and basically said, "Look, this is the way we're going to handle it. We're all going to go. We're going to support each other as a team and kind of put your political views to the side." And I think the players, they kind of rallied behind that. They according to Ross Piersbacher, we asked them what was the players' response to that, and they said that they were all on board. That after Nick Saban said that there wasn't a lot of talking, it was just okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what Coach told us to do. So that seems to be how Alabama's handling it. We didn't talk to a single player that was upset about going to the White House. Terrell Lewis can't make it, but that's just because he said his grandmother's having a funeral.
What I like, getting back to Damian Harris, what I like about it is that he set his personal political views aside. Mm-hmm. And he's going as a team. And that's the type of player that Damian Harris is. If you get to talk to him, he's very intellectual. He's got a lot of just he's a special type of player, and I think his future is very bright. I can't really elaborate too much on him because he's a guy who just has a wealth of knowledge already.
And
it's
he's not afraid to speak his mind.
No, he's not.
So
I mean, it's like talking to a grown man. You know, I mean, he's got a bright future, and I'm really happy to see that he's putting the team first, like he would. And they're going to go enjoy the team, celebrate last year's national championship run, and get right back to business. Alabama, they will visit the White House. They will be there at all day tomorrow. But we're going to try to bring you a feed around 2 p.m. Central Time. And then after that, Alabama will fly back, and they'll get back to work on Wednesday.
Yeah, they've got 2 more practices this week before a scrimmage. So they got 3 more practices if you count that scrimmage this week. It's a really busy week for Alabama.
Moving on, Alabama had their first scrimmage of the spring season this past Saturday. We have a bunch of nuggets on BamaInsider.com that you can go and read. You had an article that ran Sunday. It was about items that we learned from the scrimmage. Let's start with the offensive side. As a team, where it's early, it's 8 days coming. So take what we're saying with a grain of salt right now because things are going to change. But where's the offense, in your opinion, right now?
I think it's probably... There's parts of it that are good. There's parts of it that still have to be worked out. And there's a lot of incompleteness, too. You don't know who your quarterback is going to be. You're without a running back in Josh Jacobs, who's, going to be a key factor. You have wide receivers that are either injured in Jerry Jeudy or that are not here yet, like Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is going to be a big part of this offense. And then the offensive line, I think, Nick Saban talked about how it struggled against the pass rush, but a lot of that's probably because they're shifting and moving people, and they're trying to find the best 5 offensive line. So from what we've heard, the quarterbacks looked good. That's encouraging. Mm-hmm. And then there were some struggles on the offensive line in the pass rush. But that's something that, could fix itself once you find a set 5 guys who get used to playing with each other. And then, any other problem is probably credited to an Alabama defense, which in past years, when that defense looks good in the spring, it's usually a good sign for the team. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great transition to the defensive side, where we heard that Raekwon Davis was an absolute terror, right? I mean,
yeah.
And he's going to be, I have it down here and a couple topics down, but in my opinion, he's going to be one of the best defensive linemen in all of college football this year. I mean, he's 6'7", 300 pounds. But before we talk about him, what else on the defensive side? It looks like Alabama's going to be, once again, dominant on the defensive line. Linebackers, so much talent across the middle linebackers, outside linebackers. But what do we know about the secondary?
The secondary is very thin right now. That's why we talked about Devontae Smith having to switch into the cornerback position. And then Trayvon Diggs was not available for the scrimmage. We saw him back at practice today, so it's not that serious. It's an ankle. He looked fine during practice, so I wouldn't think too much about that. Still, even with those guys, Alabama is really thin at the position. They have to replace their whole starting dime defense from last year. They're going to get some guys in the summer, but this spring they're really thin, and they're going to have to kind of battle against that.
I'm excited to see a guy like Savion Smith, who's a junior college transfer from Gulf Coast, right?
Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Yeah, Mississippi College. Yeah. And I mean, when you're out at practice, he looks like he has a lot of experience already. He's an older guy. These junior college guys come ready to play. Same place as Isaiah Buggs.
Yep, and Terrence Cody. If you're going to go back even farther, so
that was probably a little bit before my time, but. I mean, Isaiah Buggs certainly fits the part, right? I mean, definitely. What he's doing on the defensive line. So I really like to play as Savion Smith. Really excited to see what he can do. And there's going to be some other guys that step up. Deontay Thompson is one guy who I'm really excited to see play. And he had a big play in the national championship game. I remember him swatting down a ball. And
sure. I
think he could be a ball hawk.
There's a few guys that can really make a difference. Especially when you talk about the players coming in. I know they're not here this spring, but you got a guy like Patrick Surtain Jr., Josh Jobe. Those guys can also make a difference too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Saban, has mentioned that this spring, saying, a lot of these guys, they're thin, as you said, like Devontae Smith, playing as an emergency defensive back, but guys like Patrick Surtain coming in as a 5-star, Josh Jobe, who's going to be a really good player as well. Jalen Armour Davis is another defensive back. So these guys are yet to get on campus, but when they do, that secondary is going to have a little bit more depth and some quality depth. And it'll be interesting to see how those guys adapt. And they should be on campus probably a little bit before June and get all settled in, and then they'll start to report to practice and all that. Moving along, this past week, Paul Tyson, who is the great-grandson of Bear Bryant, committed to Alabama. 6'4" quarterback, pocket quarterback. What is that? You're not a recruiting guy, but you know Alabama football. What does this mean for Alabama? I mean, you get a legacy like Paul Tyson.
Right, and it's something that this class can rally behind.
Oh, absolutely.
He's the kind of guy that, if you're another commit and you're considering Alabama, he's the kind of guy that will kind of push the needle a little bit.
And I've seen him already on social media going after big time targets and like, hey, what are you waiting for? Let's make this happen.
And with him being a legacy, I don't see it being one of these games where he decommits from Alabama and starts.
I
think he's pretty much sold in Alabama, which will help. That always helps having that kind of guy that stays with the class and really rallies behind it. So.
And I was talking with Andrew Bone, our recruiting analyst on BamaInsider.com. He mentioned that just because Paul Tyson did commit to Alabama, they're going to take 2 quarterbacks in 2019.
Right.
The other quarterback's probably going to be Tua Tagovailoa's younger brother, Talia.
Yeah.
Talia. Okay. Talia. So can we say it right? Talia?
Yeah, Talia right. Tagovailoa.
And he's another kid playing at Thompson High School, can certainly spin it. He's not far off from what Tua is, and Tua is obviously very exceptional. So you could see Paul Tyson and Talia.
That might be the next quarterback battle. After Jalen, Tua kind of matures its way down the road. This might be the one we're talking about in 3 years.
Another perfect segue: quarterback battle. Jalen and Tua. I mean, it's on the message boards. You could write a story every single day about this going forward. Where does the quarterback situation stand? I'm not going to ask you for a timeline, right?
Definitely don't ask for a timeline or time frame.
Timeline with Saban.
Time anything, because Nick Saban's not having it. He kind of had not a rant, but he wasn't pleased with the thought that he has to have a timeline or a time frame for this.
This is what I see at practice. When I go to practice, the guys are repping, and whoever's usually first in line is the guy, okay? Don't kill me. This is what I see. Jalen is the first guy in these lines. Does it mean he's a starter? I have no idea. I'm not the coach at Alabama. Now, Tua did win the national championship for Alabama. That is fact. Coming in to the season, I think everybody wants to see, or a great majority wants to see Tua as a starting quarterback. What is your overall take on the quarterback situation?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's really hard to judge who's first in line because Tua's also hurt. He's got the broken bone in his throwing hand, so he's a lot of times off to the side. I mean, if you're really going by in a line, it's actually been Jalen, Mac Jones, and then Tua. That's just the way that. But I don't think that means anything.
I think the first practice that we saw
still had Tua. Yeah, I mean, I still had Jalen as the number one.
Just
guy.
like for example, Damian Harris is the first running back, followed by Najee Harris.
Yeah.
And so that's why I bring that up. But it probably doesn't mean anything. And Saban has said he's going to play the best guy. So we just wait to see.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be decided this spring. I really don't. We've seen Tua. He's limited in spring. Who's to say he's not going to be limited all spring? He had 15 to 20. I think Saban said 15 to 20 reps. Which in a scrimmage like that, it might sound like a lot, but they're probably moving pretty fast. They're probably having a lot of reps, so that's actually not too many reps for a scrimmage like that. And, how is he going to progress? What's he going to be like by A-Day? And I don't think Saban wants any pressure of having to make a judgment before he's ready. I mean, I could see this playing out into the season. I could see
by
us
8
being
in week 2 or week 3.
I don't think Saban
still kind
wants
of
any
maybe
pressure
having a lot
having
better
to
idea who the quarterback's
make
going
a
to be, but
judgment
still
before
not
he's
quite
ready. I mean,
totally
I could see
knowing
this
the
playing
quarterback's
out into the season. I could see
coming
it
to you
being,
from
2 or
Tuscaloosa,
week 3.
Alabama.
Saban still kind of
and,
maybe having a
having
lot
to
better idea who the quarterback's going to be.
This is the Talk of Champions. This is our first time. This is our first show. Hopefully we can bring you, many shows throughout, I guess, the course of the season. I'm not sure, based off the popularity, I want to bring Andrew Bone in here as well, talk recruiting. And this is Tony Tsoukalas. He's our team writer. I'm the managing editor of BamaInsider.com. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel. We bring a ton of content on video. Tony does some great stuff on online. I mean, we have content every single day, right?
Sure.
I mean, what do we got tomorrow coming up? You're working on a story. What will it be tomorrow?
Yeah, so we're doing a story. It's kind of funny. You know how the quarterbacks, they all wear black jerseys.
Yes.
But in the scrimmage, a certain quarterback was the way they compared it was he was pinballed. So you definitely check out to see about that. Just because they're wearing a black jersey doesn't mean that the quarterbacks don't get jostled a few times during practice. So, and Tua almost had an injury scare during the scrimmage as well. But everyone's fine. Nothing to worry about. But definitely interesting story coming from Terrell Lewis, and just how it's sometimes hard not to hit a quarterback in a black jersey.
Right. I think everyone wants to hit a quarterback, period. Moving on. Harris and Harris will be an elite tandem. I'm talking about Damian Harris and Najee Harris, the Alabama running backs. We're missing Josh Jacobs right now, who's dealing with an injury. You also have Brian Robinson, who we can't forget about.
Brian Robinson's been coming on really strong.
He's a beast.
Too.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying this Damian Harris and Najee, they look phenomenal already. And that tandem could be one of the best running back tandems in the entire country, in my opinion.
Right. I think so. I think, Najee Harris is really coming on strong. And we saw that during the national championship game, and we saw that, flashes during the season. He's the number 1 overall recruit in 2017. So he's definitely a guy that has the talent. And I think at Alabama, it's been more about getting that opportunity. And I think he's going to get it this year.
I hope that, and even though I am highlighting Harrison Harris, I really hope that Robinson gets a shine too, because I don't think people know how good he is.
I think he's the hardest runner out of all of them. I would say,
he's a big dude. I mean, I'm gonna look it up right here on the roster.
We talked with Terrell Lewis today, and he said that Brian Robinson met him in the hole, and there was no juking. He just went straight through him, and to see a guy like Terrell Lewis and not be afraid, just didn't even hesitate to just go right through him. That kind of shows Brian Robinson's mentality.
Yeah, he could play that hometown
fearless.
Hero too. I mean,
sure,
right,
he's from Tuscaloosa,
Hillcrest,
went to Hillcrest
right?
High School.
Yeah, I mean, so don't sleep on Brian Robinson, but I think that Najee and Damian are going to do big things this year for Alabama. The running back legacy just continues on. The lineage is very deep. Raekwon Davis, I talked about him earlier. He's Alabama's 6'7", 303-pound defensive lineman. Who's when he hits these tackling dummies during defensive line. Have you watched what he does? So these tackling dummies, I mean, they're probably 100 pounds, maybe a little bit more. He's when he hits them, he has such violent force that they literally fly off the ground. Like if he was to hit a normal human like you or I, we'd be crushed. So I mean, I can only imagine what he's going to do during this season. I mean, we heard he was a tear for the scrimmage. He's a giant out there. What's your take on Raekwon Davis?
He's probably their best. He might be their best defensive player. It's kind of hard to give that, but he's probably the best defensive player on that team. Led the team in sacks last year.
The official roster has him 6'7", 308.
Yeah, and it's a lean. He's got a really lean frame too. There's not any wasted weight there. But he's a guy that's going to provide a lot of pass rushing off the edge. I think earlier on there was thought that they'd move him inside and play that nose tackle position, but I just don't see that because you got a guy like that that's so deadly off the edge. You're not going to limit him in the pass rush by moving him into a spot that he's going to get double teamed. So he's just going to continue to be a weapon off the edge. And just imagine having to go with him and then also having Terrell Lewis on that same edge.
What have you thought about some other defensive linemen? And we talked a little bit about Isaiah Buggs. Who else has impressed you up front?
Well, Quentin Williams is the guy that stepped into that nose guard position. He played mostly end last season, but he's a guy that can kind of transition into that spot left behind by Deron Payne
Big
and Joshua Frazier. Yeah. And he's, not as big. He probably has, if he's going to move more into that nose guard position, I don't know what they have him on the roster, but it's going to be, he's going to have to gain probably like 10 pounds. I think
6'4", 290.
Yeah, so 290, you're going to want to be closer to that 300 range if you're going to be playing inside and battling off double teams. Now, Quentin Williams is a really strong guy, so, I mean, he can, it's not like he's, weak down there, but.
It's just, I mean, what Deron Payne did was incredible. I mean, he's going to go to the league here in a couple weeks, and rightfully so.
Top
I
15
mean,
pick or
yeah,
something like
absolutely.
that.
I mean,
maybe somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I mean, and the power. You talk about the power that he had. Wasn't he the strongest guy on the team?
Yeah, he was debatable. Yeah, him and Bradley.
And he was so
well,
athletic too. I mean, he can really get off to the quarterback. So it'd be interesting to see where he goes in the NFL draft, which we're talking about right now. What's your take on? Let's just talk first round. Who are some guys that you think are going to fly off the board for Alabama?
Well, obviously it starts with Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's been pretty much projected as a top 10 kind of guy. The next one I really see just picking up steam would be Rashaan Evans. Yeah. He's a guy that I think at one point was a between first and second round guy, and I think he's probably top half of the first round now. Calvin Ridley's another name that could go off pretty quick, and then we mentioned Daron Payne. All four of those guys seem to be
I've read lately
up.
that Calvin Ridley could be slipping a little bit. Are you surprised by that? Do you think that there's any truth to that?
He didn't have a great combine, and I think people wanted him to have a little bit better of a combine.
And he didn't really get an opportunity last year to really showcase his ability.
But then again, he still had. I mean, he had the numbers last year. Could he have been better with that?
Obviously, the go-to guy. I think he's exceptional. I mean,
yeah, I think whoever's going to get him is going to get a really good receiver.
He's got speed, runs good routes, has great hands.
Yeah, it's just a matter of where he falls, and this is a real quarterback. It seems like everyone wants a quarterback, so you might have 4 go in the top 10. That's going to drop a lot of these people down. I think normally Minkah would be a lot higher than the 9 pick that he's projected to be.
Whoever gets Minkah, I mean, is going to be set. I'm a 49ers fan. I'd be pulling for Minkah. Minkah is just an exceptional player. He's got great leadership abilities. He's a playmaker, just a really good person. And I think whoever gets him is going to be, pretty stoked. I mean, same with Rashaan Evans. I mean, he's a guy who we were talking about the difference between him and Reuben Foster. And Reuben Foster, probably brings the wood more. But Rashaan Evans is the type of player who...
Well, Rashaan Evans is not going to give any NFL team any reason for concern. I think, part of the reason why Reuben Foster slipped a little bit with some of the off-the-field stuff that he got into, especially Evans, right before the draft. You're not going to get any of that with Evans.
Clean-cut guy.
Yeah.
I mean, great personality. I think he's going to flourish in the NFL. Definitely. What about Daron Payne?
It's just he's a guy that did really well in the combine. He ran a sub 540 despite being a giant. He's very athletic. He's the kind of guy that can eat up space, but he's not just a space eater. He can, he's really good against the run. He's just a run stuffer. He needs to probably improve a little bit in his pass rush, but it's all there. And it's really kind of hard to judge his pass rush if he's playing the nose tackle position or the nose guard position. You're never going to really put up numbers when you're being double teamed every play. So, in that case, I think he's got room to grow in his pass rush, but I think it's all there.
I wanted to bring up on our next topic. It was posted on the message board today. It was updated odds for the next national champ. And what do we have? Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, top 4.
I'm not sure we're going to get to SEC. I mean, that's, I guess probably the 4 teams you might say have the best shot at winning. But as far as it being a Final Four, I don't think you're going to get 2 SEC teams again. I think that was kind of something that they're just not going to want to see.
That was a
again.
rarity.
Even though it was a national championship game and it was a great game. They picked the right 2. It was the right year to do it. But I can't see that happening 2 years in a row. It's just so hard.
Other teams, Michigan, which I don't believe, Penn State.
Watch out for Penn State. I could see them.
Oh, yeah. No. I think Penn State as well.
Doing it.
Notre Dame, Stanford, 50-1. Jeez.
I don't think I'll ever believe in Notre Dame or Texas until they actually do it now. Because every single year we get it's Texas this year, it's Notre Dame's year. And until they go 10-0, I'm pumping the brakes the whole way.
No, Alabama, Clemson. I mean, Georgia. I mean, as we know, with that recruiting class that they come in, it's going to take a while for those guys to get going. Jake Fromm coming back, big quarterback last year.
Right, and they've got a number 1 quarterback coming in
as
well.
I mean, that recruiting class. I mean, certainly everybody knows what's going on in Athens. So I don't think that'll be the last time that Alabama and Georgia face each other in a high-profile game.
Probably the SEC championship game.
Yeah,
if we're being honest.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. No, but this is the Talk of Champions. We wanted to bring you this show live here from Tuscaloosa. This is Tony Tsoukalas. My name is Kyle Henderson. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to Bama Insider. If you go to any of our free story or any of our stories, some of them are premium, some of them are for free. But up at the top, you can subscribe and give us a 30-day free trial. Sure. I think it's a good opportunity for you to come in and see the quality work. We're putting up quality work on a daily basis, providing insight that you can't get anywhere else. So if you want to join BamaInsider.com, head on over to the website. You can also email me. My email is kyle@BamaInsider.com. I'm here to take care of any of your questions if you can't get signed on. You can also follow us on Twitter, Twitter.com/Bama Insider. Same on Facebook, Facebook.com Bama Insider. And, we'll keep you posted and see what happens the White House tomorrow. I think it'll be pretty cool to check out Alabama at the White House and then ask Saban about it on Wednesday, because Nick Saban will also be speaking on Wednesday, and I'm sure everyone's going to be interested to see how their experience was, ask them some questions, and we'll have another practice insider report coming up. Alabama will have another scrimmage this coming Saturday. So
the practice on Wednesday, practice on Friday, scrimmage on Saturday.
There you go. And then the following Saturday will be A-Day.
Of course.
So it's already here. So thanks for watching our show. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. Hopefully you become a subscriber of our YouTube channel as well as on BamaInsider.com. Kyle Henderson, Tony Tsoukalas. This is the Talk of Champions.